The sponsor of this episode is Chadwell Supply, an OG in the multifamily industry. Chadwell Supply is the largest privately owned maintenance and repair supplier, and they deliver orders the next day from local warehouses across the United States. To find out how Chadwell Supply will make your day better, visit www.chadwellsupply.com/difference.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of 8 Stories. I'm Sharon Cauthen and this is
Jennifer Carter.
And 8 Stories is a podcast where we talk about stories from all around the multifamily space. Heartwarming, new technology, whatever's hot or trending or just interesting and intriguing. That's what we talk about here on 8 Stories podcast. So today we're going to kick it off with floor number 1, right? If we're going up this imaginary 8-story building, we're starting off on floor 1.
That's right. And we have a really great one that I'm super excited, but I know you're a big fan, so I'll let you start off with the first one.
Well, I am a fan, but what makes me a bigger fan of this is not the product, it's the idea of evolution. So the Stanley phenomenon is putting the squeeze on Yeti, right? So Yeti was the thing people were paying, 5 times what they would pay for a Walmart comparable. But now Stanley, a company that's been around for 110 years, and they were always in the sort of blue collar worker or outdoorsy camping sort of space. And they were invented by this man named William Stanley. So here's this 110-year-old brand. All their colors were like, you could get steel or like dark green or something. There was nothing that was really innovative on it, but he wanted a way to keep his coffee hot all day. So he invented this. And this, like I said, Stanley enthusiasts were limited to a pretty small group. And they would reliably produce the same product for decades. But in 2019, their team took advantage of a TikTok. So somebody on TikTok had found like their grandfather's Stanley, and they were talking about it. And they had a more recent one, which was still a really utilitarian device. And they saw that TikTok and sort of it clicked in their marketing team's head. Now, in my idea, I had the idea that the marketing team at Stanley was at that time maybe like 2 90-year-old men who'd been doing the same like brochure for decades. But they got quickly, and the Stanley thirst quencher, the quencher, is like is highly priced. I see videos where like 10-year-olds are screaming because they got their Stanley for their birthday. But what's beautiful about that is they really thought about how can we reimagine this product? How can we be competitive? And so I will say that I do not own the giant one. I don't need a 40-ounce anything, but I did buy a Stanley, so I do have a Stanley, and I will say that it does keep my ice in there for my water for at least 2 days. It's crazy. So anyway, I just the Stanley thing gives me hope for how any company can pivot, can reimagine themselves. They didn't have to change their product. They had to change the colors. And from there, build out a different product line once they had people hooked. So how terrific of them to just pivot in that way. And what can we do in our industry that sort of models that behavior?
Yeah, I was thinking as you're sharing this, a couple of thoughts come to mind. One, they did just come out with the neon colors, and because I was born in the 80s, I'm a huge neon fan. So I do love some neon colors. So that's kind of a cool thing about them. But it also made me think about how you said, the TikTok aspect and what can you do with residents to use that social, right, to also help promote your property, right? And from their viewpoint. So I think there's a lot of different ways you can think about what Stanley's done to reinvent themselves when it comes to your community, whether that the community is brand new or, to your point, if it's 50 years old. I think that's really something we can take away and maybe just change the lens on how we see things.
Exactly. Well, I think it's time to move up to floor 2 in the building. And I think this is a story that you found, Jennifer. So I'll let you tell us about it.
I did. So we all know in this industry, especially as on-site people, maintenance, and just we work really hard, and we always tend to hear the not so happy, heartwarming stories, right? We tend to hear the ones that people are struggling with, and property managers are really a jack of all trades, quite frankly. So when I had reached out to a couple of folks and asked if they had any heartwarming stories, I did get a few. And so one of them reminds me too that just because we do something that we've always done, it still might mean something to some people, right? And when I say that, I think about, in this case, the heartwarming story is this manager of two senior properties, and she's been there for a while, does a community newsletter. And a lot of times, even in my world, I'm like, let's go digital, right? Or let's send a text message. But it really depends on who your audience is, and don't consider something dead that you may not be interested in doing. So anyways, she does this community newsletter, and she has all this different content, and she has to translate everything into Spanish because her property is heavily in the Spanish market. And so with that, right, she takes a lot of time. She's got to spend, she said, I think she spent almost 6 hours sometimes in her personal time translating it because it doesn't fit in the right boxes with the translation, right? And so anyways, with all that said, she had mentioned that after she sent it out, a sweet lady came into her leasing office and specifically told her that she couldn't wait for this week's newsletter. She said looks for it every week. She puts puzzles in there, word searches, and she just really enjoys all of the hard work really that, the manager is spending to reach her in the community and other residents. So although it's really might be time consuming on your part, you really can be creating a warm environment and an experience for your residents. So she said in the end, it was worth 100% of her time. And I think so too, which is really cool.
That's such an awesome story. And I know, man, how many times do we have that same feeling of, what am I doing all this work for? Nobody even notices. But especially if you have a senior community, they notice every little thing, and it's meaningful to them. So for that alone, for that story alone, yes, it would be worth the extra time, though I do hope she can find a way to shrink the amount of personal time she has to put into doing it. But
I do too. Yeah, maybe there's an app or some AI, right, that can kind of help her out. Like
something that'll print it out for her, right? Give it to AI, say, please format this and translate.
Right, exactly. But yeah, that's such a great story. Like, she just really, the president looks forward to that. She probably doesn't have much to do, right? And maybe to your point in our last week's episode, she might not have a lot of people around her, right? And so she does look forward to this coming, to her door, on a weekly basis.
Absolutely. I love that heartwarming story. So I think that we're going to move to the third floor in our building. Yes. And this one's about where we are in the economy right now, because for those of us who's been around in this industry for a few decades, it's very cyclical. It goes up and down. But for the last 10 years or so, it was a really great market. Like, there was a lot of money that was invested in it, both in building new product and in renovating older product, and rents were rising. And so it was a really, there were plenty of problems to deal with, but it was different than dealing with an economic downturn. And now we're in one, right? Rents are kind of stagnant, but expenses are climbing. And that means it's inevitable that we're going to have budget cuts. It just is. So when that happens, it's important to know the pendulum always swings. It's going to swing again in the other direction. But right now, sometimes even when someone moves out, the new lease that comes in is at a lower rent than the one who just moved out. So there's a big temptation when you're fighting for occupancy and you're trying to get people in the building. I've seen this temptation happen again and again, where you lower your credit standards. And when that happens, or you lower your income to rent ratios. And that really puts people who move in on the very edge of being able to pay their rent. So I would classify that as a big mistake, huge even, because while it might get you some short-term occupancy, your property's curb appeal and condition and value are determined by the quality of your residence. I'll say that again. Your curb appeal, the attractiveness of your property, that what makes people, high quality residents want to move there, is based on the quality of your current residence. And if you lower your standards too far and you make that income to rent too tight, people cannot afford to maintain not only their rent, but their lifestyle. And so it's really important to try and, as much as possible, be smart about how you're managing to attract your residents in the downturn. But regardless, if we're in an economic high or an economic low, it's really important that your property is clean, that it's attractive, that it smells good. And I mean that in every space, and that you offer impeccable customer service and at every customer touch point, from digital to door or to in every place that you have a touch point with a customer, it needs to be a frictionless and excellent experience for your customers, so that you can be the property who is catching the more highly qualified resident base than maybe your competitors who are letting some of those things slide.
Yeah, a lot to learn from, right? In this market, right? We can really kind of figure out what we need to do and focus on, which is great. Okay, so I have one more heartwarming
Yes,
story
let's do
because I've
heartwarming.
had two. I love it. I love it. Okay, see if you can follow this. I'll lead with this and then I'll kind of back the story because it's pretty cool. So this property manager, his dad was the superintendent for 34 years before he passed away, right? So a lot of time there. This property manager had, which obviously was his dad, right? So he's been in the business a long time. So he had a resident move in. She just had a baby when she moved in, but her grandmother of the person that just moved in also lived there. And her son lives there. And the grandma lived in that community when she was a kid too. So you have like generational, residents living at a community. And this manager has been so just, I mean, I think it says a lot for this manager and the community and, how they treat their residents. We always say referrals are the best, source of marketing, right? Is to have that in any scope, never mind multifamily, but he's been there now 4 years. His dad 34 years before he passed away, and you've got multiple generations on a community, and I don't see them going anywhere, right? They really are investing in their residents, being a family and giving back to their residents. And I just think it's such a heartwarming story to have so many different types of folks within a family living at the same community. I mean, it really resembles family to me, which I really, really love.
So the person who worked there was the maintenance supervisor or the manager. They had been there for a period of time, but their father also worked there for 30 something
Mm-hmm.
years. And then you have
Yep.
all these families. The grandmother was there as a child, and then you've got multiple generations coming back. That really, we often think that the residents think of their four walls, what's inside the apartment, as their
Mm-hmm.
home. But clearly, this family sees that whole community as their home. And to me, you're hitting the high notes whenever you have an experience like that with your residents.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And it kind of makes me just actually, honestly, just maybe want to go there and check it out. Cause it's that just seems super cool and super gives me the warm and fuzzies,
It would be
which I
so
love.
much fun to interview those families and have them tell the story. If I was that manager, I would be asking them, please, can we sit down and talk about this? Would you mind sharing your testimonial? Because what a story.
And it's interesting because it makes me think when you said that really quickly, it just made me think of they're obviously communicating with their residents, right? They're showing value, right? They're creating something that they're feeling connected to, and they're doing a great job in that. So yeah, it's great.
That is a great story. Along that line, though, I think that you also spoke with someone or heard from someone whose company was really investing in their team members in a unique way. And it kind of made me have envy about what a great job they're doing.
Chadwell Supply is the proud sponsor of Multifamily Media Network. Chadwell Supply is the largest privately owned MRO supply company and is committed to the multifamily industry. They deliver orders the next day from local warehouses across the United States. Chadwell Supply offers valuable resources such as maintenance training, a dedicated renovations team, and procurement platform assistance, ensuring multifamily properties operate more efficiently. Now, by partnering with Chadwell Supply, they'll help communities stand out in an increasingly competitive market. So learn more at chadwellsupply.com/difference. Yeah, so actually, I think this brings us to floor 5, which is crazy. We're already there. But so some listeners might know Western Wealth Communities, and Jennifer Stotokis is over there as an executive leader. She had done a retreat for her folks, and I was not familiar personally with this, but it did also make me a little jealous. She did invest in her team, which I think again goes a long way. And it does sound like a team restoration because it's called sound bath. So at first I thought they were like in bathtubs, but that's not what the photo was by any means. So I had to do a little digging. She did mention that it's an opportunity for her team to reset and recharge from their nervous system, which, I thought was really great because sometimes we as people don't really realize what our nervous system is doing. But this sound bath just allows you to detach from your nervous system and really relax, right? You kind of get people out of their comfort zone, connect with others, and just bring a great group of people together that's so special. So again, I would highly recommend you kind of dig around and look into a sound bath. It looked to me like they had some yoga mats and some sound machines, and it just was a great time to really relax and decompress from what they do on a day-to-day job.
I I agree with all of that. I had the opportunity to attend a sound bath, and one of our a friend of mine owns a cafe here in town, and they're all into hyper local. All the produce there and all the food is hyper local. But they brought in someone who does sound baths. So we were laying on yoga mats, and the practitioner had all of these beautiful bowls and mallets that would make different tones and sounds, and you're laying there with your eyes closed, and it's around you. And then there was a point where she walked around you with one of those, so literally the sound is just moving around. I have goosebumps just now remembering it. It was really, there were, at the end you stood in one of the bowls, so you're literally standing in it. You feel it from your toes to your head, but it's not anything aggressive. It's just being enveloped in sound in such a different way. So 10 out of 10, I highly recommend that. You and I, we should schedule a sound bath. We're a team.
We should. I give it a try, and then I'll give my feedback if I'm good with it.
Well, for people like you and I, where it's hard to lay still, it was incredible. Yes. It was really incredible.
Okay. I'll add that to my 2024 list.
I will say it beats the heck out of a pizza for lunch. Start investing in or
exactly, or the donuts, right? Like we gotta do better than pizza or donuts. Although I do love myself some donuts, but I could pass on.
And I love pizza, but we can't call that investing in our teams.
No, absolutely not. I think
years past, I remember there were team members who were like, "I had other plans for lunch." Nope, sorry. This is your lunch break. You have to be with all of us and eat this pizza.
Right. Yeah. So it's a good one. I thought that was really great. So maybe some other folks can give it a try as well.
All right, time to move up to floor 6. And so this one is, it's just a general concept, sort of like the economic downturn. And this is about, I called it hot and spicy or mild and saucy. And it's about how you have upset residents. They can get really heated, and they come, when they're presenting whatever it is that's aggravating them. And it can be hard not to take it personally, because it's not about you, but you are the one that is the recipient of whatever it is that they're upset about. And so I think it's really important for leaders to not fall into the trap of getting their work is so important and so time sensitive that they've got to do it right now. When you hear that sound, your ears always have to be open to it. It's so important to come out and to be the one who, first of all, takes the heat. You remove that from it being your employees who have to take the brunt of that. And then you do your very best to sort of de-escalate that situation and bring it to a resolution. And it's also really important as a leader, along that same line, to be careful that you don't have these gripe sessions with your staff where it's us versus them, right? Because yes, corporate may be driving you insane, or the residents you might think they're acting a little crazy today, but it's very important as a leader that you're setting the tone for, well, how do we expect that to be, to carry on? How do we expect our employees to respond to that? But mostly it's so that you're taking the power in the situation and de-escalating it and helping model what you expect from your team members. In the meantime, you get happier residents because they know that they can come to you, and so you can take them from extra hot to mild, and that is the skill that you really are looking for in your personal and professional development.
That is great. I love the title. That is great. All right, I think we're going to floor 7. Pets. I love pets. I have 2 dogs myself. And so I could talk about dogs all day long. If you love my dog, I'll love you. It's totally fine. But sheds, scrubs, and suds, dog wash stations.
I
What
have
have you been
pets.
finding with that?
I have a pet, little Clifford, and he is he's a, he's interesting, but he's mine, and I love him. But one of the things is that if you have a brand new community, you most likely have a dog spa or a dog wash station, because those have been imagined for a while now. Certainly, dog parks. But what you okay? Let me back up just a little bit. There was a time when properties were not pet friendly. In fact,
Mm.
they were almost pet hostile. You had to have one pet you could have in the building anywhere. It was not a pet. It had to be a service animal, and there was all this rigmarole to get that approved. And they still kind of gave you the side eye. And so then it became like the market smart thing to do was to say, hey, people have a lot of pets. We need to accept pets. And so everybody became, we're pet friendly. Well, if you don't have the ability to have a dog wash station somewhere, then you are at a competitive disadvantage. Or those people are washing their pets in their bathtubs, which is not great for your plumbing. My dog
Yeah.
is short haired, and I swear to you, I get enough hair off of him to be another full dog. So if you have a long haired dog, then forget about it. You do not want that in your bathtubs. So one of the things that we don't have a pet wash station because we have a house, and so there is a dog boarding place, a pet boarding place, and they offer a self-service dog wash stations in there. So they have the tubs, they have the shampoo if you want it, or you can bring your own. They have towels, the dryers, the whole experience. And so for, I don't know, 20, $25, you can go in, you can wash your pet there. I don't have any hair in my drain at home. And it's a good experience all the way around. And I just think if you don't have a pet wash station, then going to one of those stores and making a deal for your residents to get some sort of benefit for going there can help offset that competitive disadvantage. And so it's not something that seems important for your time, but if most of your people who apply or who come have pets and are interested, then you have to think about, how do we overcome what we don't have, and how can we build that in for our residents in a different way?
I love that. I think that's a great alternative to thinking about kind of outside the box, right? If you don't have the space or the money to convert, to create that. I just posted recently, as actually last week, about my dog. He turned 13. He's my rabble dog. I have two. They're sleeping. Don't tell him I like one more than the other. But my older one, um, and it kind of along the lines of setting yourself apart, right? I made a post and it was like, happy birthday to him. But when you look at communities, what are you doing besides the dog biscuits, right? Are you having photography maybe once a month? Because, everybody will spend money on their dogs, right? So it's
Yep.
like, you're going to do like a little pet photography where they come and get their pet picture taken with a little hat. And, you give them, maybe the dogs can come to the office and not just pick a bone out, but you go to the dollar store and you can get a bunch of dog toys for $1, right? And they can come in and pick something out. But what are you doing to celebrate your dogs at the community, right? I guess I feel like we in the industry sometimes get annoyed at people that all have the dogs, right? There can be a lot of frustration from an on-site team members of, oh, they're loud, or they, nobody's picking up after your dogs. But if we turn it around to celebrate them and offer things like, the option here to have a deal with an outside company if you don't have something available at your community, there's other ways to create what is great for the owner or the resident as well as the dog.
Yeah, one of the other ideas was there are a lot of mobile pet groomers. So if you can work with them to say, once a month we have a mobile pet groomer that comes, and all our residents get a discounted price, or you figure out what it costs to book them for the day, for that matter, it might be worth it. But looking for those really unique options that will put you at a competitive advantage, because maybe somebody doesn't, they're bad, whatever reason, they don't want to wash the dog themselves, but if they can know that there's a mobile pet groomer that comes once a
I
month,
love that one.
even if they never use it, it starts to seem like a really cool feature that you have at your property. So
Yeah, and you can even have them like sign up in advance, right? Like, they
exactly.
only have 15 slots, and it's like, start to create that, and then maybe he comes twice a month, every other week, with that. I love the mobile idea too. I think that's great.
Well, if there are properties out there who are doing this kind of thing, if you're finding ways to overcome a competitive disadvantage, we'd love to hear about it. So please write in the comments below. Let us know what you're doing. We'd love to celebrate it and maybe give you a shout out in one of our future shows.
Absolutely.
Are we at the
I
eighth
think we
floor
were
already?
now to 8. No, yeah, we're on 8.
It's
8. We made it to the top.
easy.
We made it to the top. So this was on, I think you found, I'll let you have this. You are my go-to person for TikTok. I want to be like you. So it is about TikTok. I'll let you share.
It is all about TikTok. So I have a little show over on TikTok called Collective Stories, and it is property management, just funny stories that happen in the world of property management. But what I've found because of that, I have on a lot of accounts for apartment communities, and they are having the time of their lives. They're not just saying this is the look at our beautiful lounge, look at this. Like, they're being funny. They're modeling an apartment where the manager walks into tour and the person presses their face up against the wall and moves right past them. Like, they're just, you're in the bathroom showing something, the maintenance supervisor jumps out behind the shower curtain. Like, they're just having a great time. And it makes me think that's got to be a fun place to live. The people are enjoying themselves so much. So please, I encourage you to go to TikTok, put in property management and you're bound or apartment management, and you will find a whole new world of people finding creative ways to market their communities. And you'll find a lot of crazy stories too. So
Yeah, I was watching a few that you had sent me, and what really struck me was, yes, I agree, they all seem to be having fun. And the real thing about that is we spend so much time at work, right, with all of our people. And what better way to embrace and enjoy and throw some great music to what you're doing in the community, from residents to your fellow employees, whether that's maintenance or on-site team members. So I'm going to start following and see what I can find.
I'll just start sending you regular TikTok videos, and then
I
you'll
love
fall into the TikTok hole. It,
it.
like reels, like all of the short form videos, it has the ability to really, you look up and it's 10-15 minutes later and you just looked at TikTok videos. So you might have to set a reminder, okay, it's time to stop. But I'm not the target demographic, but there's something for everybody on TikTok, and it's no longer just people dancing to whatever the latest song or dance is. There are people telling their whole stories there, but apartment communities finding a way to market themselves in unique ways. I'm all about that as a good use of TikTok.
Yeah, it really creates the personality for the property and the people, right? It kind of puts a story and connects and weaves the dots about what that community is really about. And that's not just four walls, right? In an apartment. So I love it. It's
You're
great.
so right. It's telling the story of what's not written down on paper. Like, it tells the personality of property. I love the way you put that. That is exactly what's happening. And it brings it to life in a totally different way. So check it
A fun way.
out. Yes, we're all about the fun. All right. So I think that's the end of this week's episode, but we will be back again next week with 8 more stories from around the multifamily space. We do encourage you to send us your stories. You can leave the stories in the comments below, and we will give you a shout out if we use your story in a future episode.
Thank you so much. It's been fun today.
Yeah, talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you again to Chadwell Supply for sponsoring this episode. Chadwell Supply delivers unforgettable service with next day delivery, online and in-person maintenance training, procurement platform assistance to make your ordering simple. Visit chadwellsupply.com/difference to learn how Chadwell Supply will make your day better.